The night was dark. Rain slicked the pavement. Viola hugged herself, trying to stay warm. She was lost in the city. Every turn seemed to lead her further astray. Then she saw him, a tall, shambling figure. He was pale and thin. His clothes were torn, revealing rotting flesh. A zombie. Viola knew she should be afraid, but something in her urged her forward. She followed the zombie. He led her down a narrow alleyway. The stench of decay filled her nostrils. Her heart pounded in her chest. She wasn't sure why she trusted this creature, but she did. There was something almost sad about him, as if he didn't want to be this way. Maybe he needed help. Maybe she could help him. She continued to follow. Viola wasn't always this brave. She used to be afraid of her own shadow, but everything changed a month ago. The bite, the fever, the transformation. She was a werewolf now. It was terrifying at first. The animalistic urges, the loss of control, the fear of hurting someone. She had isolated herself, afraid of what she might do. But tonight felt different. The zombie stopped at the end of the alleyway. He turned to face her. His eyes, though dead, seemed to hold a glimmer of something. Recognition? Hope? He raised his hand and pointed to a door Viola hadn't noticed before. It was old and made of dark wood. What was she doing here? The door looked ancient. It was set into the brick wall as if it had always been there. There was no handle, no hinges, no sign of how to open it. Viola approached cautiously. The zombie remained still, watching her. She reached out and touched the rough wood. It was cold and damp. She pushed against it, but it wouldn't budge. She ran her fingers along its surface, searching for a latch or a button, anything that might open it. Suddenly, the door swung inward. It moved silently, as if by magic. Viola gasped and stumbled back. The zombie tilted his head, beckoning her forward. Taking a deep breath, Viola stepped through the doorway. The room inside was warm and inviting. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting a flickering light on the comfortable furniture and book-lined shelves. It felt like someone's home. A tall man with kind eyes and a warm smile stood by the fireplace. He was holding a steaming mug. "Welcome," he said, his voice deep and soothing. "I'm Wade. Please, come in, you must be freezing." Viola hesitated for a moment, then stepped into the room. She looked back, but the zombie was gone. The door had vanished, leaving only the blank brick wall. She was trapped. "Don't worry," Wade said, reading her mind. "He does that. Likes his theatrics. Tea?" Section 5. Introductions. Viola accepted the mug of tea gratefully. It warmed her hands and filled her with a sense of calm. She looked around the room. There were several other people there. They seemed ordinary enough, but something about them felt different. "Don't be shy," Wade said. "Everyone here is a friend. We all understand what you're going through." He gestured to a woman with flowing red hair. "This is Lilith. She's a vampire." Lilith smiled, revealing a set of sharp fangs. "It's not as glamorous as it sounds," she said with a wink. Viola couldn't help but smile back. Maybe she wasn't alone after all. Wade continued the introductions. There was a nervous-looking man named Edgar who turned out to be a ghost. He kept apologizing for his transparency. A young woman with glowing green eyes, Alara, was a witch struggling to control her powers. A burly man with horns sprouting from his forehead, Boris, was a minotaur with anger management issues. And a shy girl with shimmering scales, Coralia, was a siren who couldn't speak above a whisper. They were all so different, yet they were all here together, sharing this strange secret. Viola began to feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe this was the place she was meant to be. As Wade spoke, Viola listened intently. She learned that this was a support group, a place for people with supernatural afflictions to connect and share their experiences. She felt a surge of relief. She wasn't the only one struggling with this. But as the meeting went on, Viola couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She had hoped for a cure, a way to reverse her transformation and go back to her old life. When the meeting ended, she approached Wade. "Is there a way to undo this?" she asked, her voice trembling with desperation. "To become human again?" Wade looked at her with understanding and sadness. "I'm afraid not, Viola," he said gently. "There's no magic cure for what we are." Viola felt her heart sink. She had clung to the hope that there was a way out, that this was all just a bad dream. Tears welled up in her eyes. "But," Wade continued, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder, "that doesn't mean we can't live full and meaningful lives. We just have to learn to adapt." He told her stories. Stories of the others in the group, how they had come to terms with their powers, how they had found ways to use them for good. He told her about Edgar, the ghost, who used his ability to pass through walls to help people in trouble. He told her about Elara, the witch, who was learning to control her powers to heal the sick. He told her about Boris, the Minotaur, who was channeling his anger into protecting the weak. Viola listened, her heart slowly beginning to heal. Maybe Wade was right. Maybe it wasn't about being normal. Maybe it was about finding your own strength in the face of adversity. The others in the group gathered around Viola. They shared their own stories of struggle and acceptance. Lilith, the vampire, talked about the challenges of immortality. Coralia, the siren, spoke about the beauty and burden of her voice. They offered her advice and support. They made her laugh. For the first time since her transformation, Viola felt a sense of belonging. She wasn't alone. She had found her pack. As the night drew to a close, Viola felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She wasn't cured, she was still a werewolf, but now she embraced it. Viola walked out into the night, leaving the warmth of the group behind. But the feeling of belonging stayed with her. She looked up at the moon, its silvery light bathing the city in an ethereal glow. She took a deep breath and let out a howl. It wasn't a howl of anguish or fear, it was a howl of freedom, a howl of acceptance, a howl that said, "This is who I am, and I am not afraid." Viola knew there would be challenges ahead, but she also knew she wouldn't face them alone. She had found her people, her pack, her monster family, and together they would face anything.